Hi guys, Stuart here from Solitech. Just wanting to show you how to place a series of holes down the side of a plate and have them evenly spaced along an edge. I've got a little countersunk hole in the corner of this plate, and I'd like to drive a series or a pattern of those running to the end. Linear pattern means we can control how many and the spacing, but it doesn't stop the last hole a certain distance from the end. So instead of that, what we're going to use is a curve-driven pattern. I've got a sketch here and it simply has a line in it. We just have a look at that sketch and edit the sketch. It starts in the center of the hole and finishes what appears to be about the same position. That's being controlled using a center line that's vertical between the origin and the middle point of this line. So basically it's the same length either side. The dimension here just shows you the driven size. We could have removed those relationships and simply put dimensions to our finished position, but I'm happy with it the way it is. So now I'd like the pattern. So what I'm going to do is go into my pattern styles and choose a curve-driven pattern. And the direction for that pattern is this sketch line. If we wanted to have different geometry that joins together, instead of picking the individual entity, we could pick the entire sketch. That doesn't have to be a straight line, it could be an arc or a spline, anything you really need. So the number of holes I'd like along there, I want to have 8 holes, and the feature that I want to pattern in is this little detail here. So straight away that positions those holes, and because of the evenly spaced, we're getting from the start point of our curve to the end point of our curve, and it evenly spaces those along. Having generated that, if we look at how far that is from one hole to the next, we can select those two and just measure that distance, and it tells me the distance between the centers there is, center distance is 39 millimeters. Okay, so yep, that's looking pretty good. So I'm just going to close that down. So what we could be after here is essentially what we're trying to get is a nice fixed spacing. So if we wanted 8, the spacing between them is approximately 40 millimeters. And we know that the number of holes we're going to get is basically sort of one less than the number divided by that space. So we've got our pattern, and that's quite good, but how would we reset that so that we always get spacing of around about a set value? Okay, well let's take a look at that. On that sketch we can see there's a little dimension here, and I want to take that dimension and divide it by a number to give me an approximate spacing for a hole. So I'm going to use an equation to do that. If we go up to our tools and we go to equation, first thing I'm going to do is set up a global variable. I've already created one, but just to show you how that works, I'm going to create a global variable called number, and I want that to equal something, and the thing I want it to equal basically is that not the position sketch, but the dimension out of the position sketch. So let's just double click on, so we'll say equals, and then I'll double click on this dimension. So we've got that dimension. Now I'd like to divide that by, I don't know, let's say our 40 millimeters. So we'll just go divided by 40. Now when it works that out, it gets 7 millimeters based on that spacing that we had. Okay, so we're getting our 7. Oh, sorry, the 7 times 40 would give us that total spacing. All right, so I would want number of copies of the holes. I want about 7 of them. Now, if it came up with a different value, let's say we wanted to make it 32, and we get this decimalized value, what we could do is, as you can see in the one above, we can use a function to determine what's going on there. So if you go to functions in the global variables, we can say I want an integer value, and we'll just delete that back and put our curve bracket at the end of all of that, and that's going to resolve in just the 8, okay, and instead of our 7 with the 40 millimeters, or instead of the 8.7. So that's a good start, but what I really want to do is I want to control something with that. So let's just get out of that for a moment. We've got our global variable set up of NUM for the number. Now in this whole pattern that I've just created, if I double click on that, sorry, the pattern itself, you can see here's the number of holes we've got. There's 8 holes. So if we double click on that, we can, instead of just having that equaling 8, we can say, well, I'd like that to equal, and I'll pick that global variable that I set up, 8, and go OK. So now there's an equation that drives how many holes there are. Now what that means is it's driven off a spacing. So if I change the space on the plate and make that, instead of 300, let's make it 250, and we rebuild it. Okay, so we've changed that, so let's rebuild it. Then automatically the holes update, and now you can see there's only 7 holes running along there because my approximate spacing is around about 32 millimeters, and then it evens that out and gives you an integer number of holes running along there. So that's a way that you can fairly easily drive with an equation the number of holes and evenly spaced holes along an edge, whether it's curved or a straight line, and a nice little way of using curve-driven pattern. Okay, we'll talk to you again later for more tips and tricks with SOLIDWORKS. All the best.